Let us now talk about the time complexity of the quicksort. In previous video we talked about quicksort. Now let us discuss about the time complexity, right? So since quicksort is a recursive function, whenever we analyze a recursive function, what we do is we write a recurrence relation for the recursive function, right? Let us say there are n elements that we wish to sort using quicksort. That is, number of elements from index p to index r are n. Alright, that is n is equal to r minus p plus 1, that we also discussed in the previous one, right? N is equal to r minus p plus 1. Okay, so these are the number of elements that we wish to sort using quicksort, right? So let us say that the time taken by the quicksort to sort n elements is t of n. Okay, so time taken by quicksort to sort n elements is t of n. Then the time taken by the quicksort to sort k elements will be, to sort k elements, it will take t of k time, right? Now the time taken by the quicksort, or the time complexity of quicksort, cannot be analyzed in as straightforward manner as merge sort. Why? Because merge sort divided the array into two parts such that each part was of size n by 2. So we had 2n by 2 plus theta of n, that is the time taken by the merge procedure. But in quicksort, the time complexity depends on the partition function, that is how partition function divides the array, in what sizes that the partition function divides the array into. The time complexity depends on that, so it cannot be that straightforward, right? Let us say that the partition function divides the array into two subproblems such that one subproblem is of size k and other subproblem is of size n minus k minus 1. What I mean to say is that the index that the partition function returns, what partition function returns? Q, right? We have stored the index at q, right? So let us say that the index produced by the partition function divides the array into two subproblems such that one subproblem is of size k and other subproblem is of size n minus k minus 1. Right, so what were the total number of elements? N, out of which one element is already in its correct position and it has divided it into two subproblems of size k and n minus k minus 1, right? So the time taken by the quicksort to sort n elements will be time taken by the partition, that is theta of n. Why? Because partition function takes order of that is, it runs the loop inside the partition function runs n minus 1 times, right? From 1, I think from p to n minus 1 or something like that, right? So this partition function takes theta of n time, and if we assume that the time taken by the quicksort to sort n elements is t of n, then the time taken by the quicksort when it is called on a partition of size k, then the time taken by the quicksort to sort k elements will be t of k. Alright. Now when it is called on second half contains n minus k minus 1 elements. So the time taken by the quicksort to sort n minus k minus 1 elements will be t of n minus k minus 1. Right. So the time taken by this one will be t of k and the time taken by this one will be t of n minus k minus 1. Alright, so these two are the time taken by the quicksort to be performed on the two subproblems that are created by the partition function. In that case, what happens is, in that case what happens is t of n becomes, what it becomes? Time taken by the partition function, that is theta of n plus time taken by this. What is the time taken by the quicksort when it is performed on k elements? T of k plus time taken by this. Time taken by this is t of n minus k minus 1. Why? Because quicksort is called on a problem which is of size n minus k minus 1, right? So it will be t of n minus k minus 1. So this is the general time complexity of the quicksort procedure, right? Where k and n minus k minus 1 are the sizes of the subproblems that are produced by the partition function, right? Let us now talk about the best case and worst case time taken by the quicksort. So worst case occurs when best case occurs. Let us first talk about best case. Now best case occurs when it produces two subproblems, both of them are of equal sizes of size n by 2, right? That is, quicksort it almost divides the array, or the partition function divides the array into almost two equal halves. That is, both the subproblem sizes n by 2, right? That is, it divides the problem into two subproblems, each of size n by 2, right? In that case, k becomes n by 2 and n minus k minus 1 also becomes nearly equal to n by 2. That is order of n by 2. So it becomes t of n becomes theta of n plus t of n by 2 plus t of n by 2. Alright. So I should rub this now. Now t of n, if that is the case, t of n becomes, it is not visible, right? T of n becomes 2t of n by 2 plus theta of n. Right, it becomes this. So what is the solution by applying Master's theorem? By applying Master's theorem, it becomes theta of n log n. So this is the best case time complexity of the quicksort. When does the best case occur? When the partition function divides the array into two subproblems, each of size n by 2, almost n by 2, plus or minus 1, right? So in that case, the time complexity becomes theta of n log n. That is the best case of the quicksort algorithm, right? Now let us talk about the worst case of quicksort algorithm. So the worst case occurs when the partition function creates two subproblems, one of size 0 and other of size n minus 1. Because one element is already in its correct position, so it divides the sub-array into two subproblems, one of size 0 and one of size n minus 1, right? So how does the recurrence relation look like? Recurrence relation looks like this. T of n is equal to, T of n is equal to T of 0 plus t of n minus 1 plus theta of n. What is theta of n? Time taken by the partition function. Now if you solve it, what will it turn out to be? It will turn out to be theta of n square. Okay, you can take this as Cn, and by substitution or any other method you can calculate that the time complexity turns out to be theta of n square. That is the worst case time complexity of the quicksort algorithm, right? Now let us talk about the average case. Okay, let us first talk about when does this worst case occur. This worst case occurs when the array is already sorted. Yeah, it is very funny that the worst case occurs when the array is already sorted. In that case, quicksort takes theta of n square time when the array is sorted either in ascending order or descending order. In both the cases, it will take the worst case time complexity. Okay, so that is one disadvantage of quicksort, that it takes so much time when the array is already sorted. That was a good thing in case of insertion sort. When the array was already sorted, it used to take omega of n time. That is the best case time complexity of insertion sort was omega of n. But here in this case, what happens when the array is already sorted? It is taking theta of n square time, which is not a good thing. Let us see how it works. Okay, let us see how it works. Okay, so refer to the quicksort procedure and also refer to the partition procedure that we discussed in the previous videos. Okay, let us say that the array is sorted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Indices are also from 1. Alright, so let us say p is equal to 1, that is the starting index, last ending index is 8. P is equal to 1, r is equal to 8. Now let us see what quicksort does. Quicksort will what it will do? It will first call partition function. What will partition function do? It will put this as x. Okay, that is a of r, that is the last element, as x. And what it will do? I will point somewhere here, that is to p minus 1. I is equal to p minus 1. I is equal to p minus 1. Then what it will do? J will run from p to r minus 1. That is, j will run from here to here. Okay, so what it will do? It will check If 1 is less than equal to 8, is 1 less than equal to 8? True. What it will do? It will increment I. Now I and j both point to the same element, and then it will exchange a of I with a of j. Now what will be the result of it? Since I and j both point to the same element, as a result of it nothing will happen. Why? Because 1 is exchanged with 1 itself. Now again j will be incremented. Is 2 less than equal to 8? True. What it will do? Again it will increment I. Now I and j again both point to the same element. Now as a result of the exchange, what will happen again? Nothing will happen, because 2 is exchanged with 2. Again it will see 3 is less than equal to 8. True. So I will be incremented and a of I and a of j will be exchanged. As a result, nothing will happen. So what it is doing, at every iteration of loop, it is finding out that the current element is smaller than the pivot element. So whenever it increments I, both I and j point to the same element. So as a result of exchange, nothing happens. Again j, and so on. Okay, so what will happen when j is this, at the last what will happen when j is pointing to the 7th element or the 7th index, what it will do? 7 is less than equal to 8, true. It will increment I. Now I will again point to it. As a result of the exchange, what will happen? Nothing will happen. Now j will stop here. Now I is pointing to here, j is pointing to here. What it will do? It will exchange a of I plus 1 with a of r. That is pivot element and this. So a of I plus 1. What is I plus 1? I plus 1 is again this. Since I is pointing to this element, I plus 1 will point to this element. As a result of exchange, nothing will happen. So it will return this element only. That is, it will return I plus 1, right? So q becomes this. Now since q becomes this particular element, from p to q minus 1 it becomes one partition. From q plus 1 to r was another partition. But what is q plus 1? Q plus 1 is 9. From 9 to 8 it is another partition. So how many element does it contain? It contains only 0 element. That is, it does not contain any element. And this particular partition, how many elements will it contain? N minus 1 elements. Now again, when it is called on this array, a similar thing will happen. Okay, that is, when it is called on this subproblem, a similar thing will happen. Again 7 will remain the same, or that is 7 will be the index returned by the partition function will be 7 itself. Alright, so what it is doing, it is consecutively dividing the problem into two subproblems, one of size 0 and one of size n minus 1. Again, when it is called on this array, what it will do, one partition will contain this 6 elements and the other partition will not contain any element, because 8 is now out of scope, right? Now again, when it is called on this particular subarray, again it will produce one subarray consisting of these 5 elements and another subarray consisting of 0 element, right? So this is constantly happening. So what will be the time complexity? Theta of n square, that is t of 0 plus t of n minus 1 plus theta of n, which will give theta of n square as the result. So that is the worst case time complexity of quicksort, right? Now when the array is reverse sorted, let us see what happens in that case. When the array is reverse sorted. Now when the array is reverse sorted, what happens? 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, so when I call partition function on this, when I call first of all quicksort on this, what happens? P is less than R. P is 1 and R is 8. P is 1 and R is 8. So what happens is, P is less than R, what it will do? It will call the partition function on A from P to R. So what will partition function do? It will make x is equal to A of R, that is x is equal to A of 8. And I is equal to P minus 1, so I will point here. Now J will run from P to R minus 1, so J points here. Is 8 less than 1? No. What will happen? It will simply increment. 7 is less than 1? No, it will increment. 6 is less than 1, no increment. 5 is less than 1, no increment. Okay. Now again, this will continue till the end. 2 is also not less than 1. So what is happening? When the array is reverse sorted, it will be unable to find an element that is smaller than the pivot element. So it will just keep on incrementing and not doing anything, right? And at the end of the day, what it will return? It will return I plus 1. That is, it will return I. That is, it will return this particular index. 1. How it will return? It will first exchange this with this. Alright, when it will not find an element that is smaller than the pivot element, the J loop will stop, right? The J loop stops till r minus 1. Then what is the last line? Exchange a of I plus 1 with a of r. So what was I plus 1? This one. Exchange this with pivot element. So 8 and 1 are exchanged. Now again it has produced two subarrays. Now again the partition function has produced two subarrays. One subarray was from P to Q minus 1. What is Q? Q is 1. So P to Q minus 1 will be from 1 to 0. How many elements will it contain? 0 element. And the other subarray will contain from Q plus 1 to R. What is Q plus 1? 2. What is Q? 1. So from 2 to 8 there will be another subarray. So then the quicksort will be called on this. So again the same condition, that is T of 0. One subproblem size is 0 and one subproblem size is n minus 1. That is one subproblem is of size 7. Again it will happen. How? Now again this will be pivot element, right? So 7 is less than equal to 8. Yeah, 7 is less than equal to 8. True. What will happen? Then again it will follow the same procedure of when it was in ascending order. 7 is less than equal to 8. True. I will be incremented and J and I both will point to the same element. As a result of the exchange, nothing will happen. Now again J will point here. Alright, so 6 is also less than equal to 8. Then again I will be incremented. The previous case that we discussed. Okay, the first time it will not find an element smaller than pivot, and in the subsequent cases what it will find that all the elements are smaller than the pivot element, and then again it will try to exchange the same element with the same element. So nothing will happen as a result, right? So again it will keep on producing subproblems of one of size 0 and one of size n minus 1. So it will again result in the worst case time complexity of theta of n square. So that is about the worst case of the quicksort procedure, right? Let us now talk about the average case. So how can we even think about average case? Let us say it does not divide in the partition is not as bad as 0 and n minus 1 and not as good as partitioning in the middle. Let us say that the array and partition function partitions the array into two subarrays such that one subarray size is of order of n by 10 and one subproblem size is of 9n by 10. Okay, let us say it produces array of this size. It constantly produces array of this size at each partition, at each level. Okay, because partition will keep on happening, right? Now it will again get partition, this will again get partition, right? That is how quicksort works, right? So let us say the partition is as bad as ratio 1 by 9. That is, it divides the subproblems into it divides the arrays into two subproblems, one of size 1 and one of size 9. So if the total size of the array is n, it divides the array into two subproblems, one of size n by 10 and another of size 9n by 10. Now what happens is if we analyze the time complexity of this one, it will become T of n by 10 plus T of 9n by 10 plus theta of n. Even if you calculate this one, it will turn out to be theta of n log n. That is, it is closer to the best case and not to the worst case, right? Even if the partition procedure produces a very bad partition of size 1:99 of ratio 1:99, that is, this is n by 10 and this is 99 by 100. Sorry, n by 100 and 99 by 100. Even if it produces this kind of partition, that is n by 100 and 99 n by 100, then too the time complexity will turn out to be theta of n log n if you solve it, right? So when we do it, we find out that the average case time complexity of quicksort is closer to the best case time complexity, that is theta of n log n. So this worst case is very rare. So what happens is since the average case time complexity is very close to the best case time complexity, that is theta of n log n, so quicksort is very popular algorithm. Alright, although its worst case time complexity is very bad, still because its average case time complexity is theta of n log n, which is closer to the best case, quicksort is very popular and it is very much in use as much as other sorting algorithms, right? So that is about the time complexity of quicksort. I hope you like this video. If you do, then please don't forget to press the like button, subscribe to my channel for more such videos, press the bell icon so that you get notified every time I upload a new video, and I'll see you in my next one with a new topic. Okay, bye.